Part 3. What foods promote diabetic disease? Hello, and welcome to Part 3 of the series on diabetes. In Part 2, we focus on the mechanisms in the body that cause type 2 diabetes, and along those same lines, gestational diabetes. You learned that fats are the root cause of insulin resistance. You learned that insulin resistance, if left unchecked, will lead to diabetes. You also learned in Part 2 that there are many different diseases that are associated with metabolic syndrome, the larger umbrella that diabetes falls under. Finally, you learned about the symptoms of diabetes. Now we actually will discover what foods play a major role in the manifestation of diabetes in the body and also in acquiring insulin resistance. Did you write down the foods you regularly consume from the action steps in the last video in Part 2? If so, have that list next to you as I go through the different categories of foods that are disease promoting. Remember, we will investigate foods that heal in Part 4. So after you see what foods promote disease, I will teach you what foods to incorporate to help you be successful in reversing disease. I will also talk about daily habits and ways to make changes that last. It is so inspiring to see your health return to you, and your energy and vitality is an awesome power to control and have at your fingertips. So let's go on a journey to discover what is keeping you from the health you want and the life you deserve to live. There are 4 categories of foods that trigger the changes in the body that cause diabetes: highly processed foods, meat and dairy foods, sugar sweetened and diet drinks, and saturated and trans fats. Let's take a look at these different types of foods in greater detail. What are highly processed foods? They are foods that have been formed and prepared in a factory. They typically have a long shelf life and cannot be traced directly back to nature. They have few nutrients, but many ingredients, additives, and calories. They have been specifically engineered to be highly palatable. In other words, they are irresistible. The food companies want you to buy more and more of these foods. That is how they remain profitable. So it is a safe bet that you are likely addicted to at least one of these types of processed foods. Sugary foods and salty foods are the ones that most of us associate with processed foods. Cookies, cakes, chips, crackers, frozen processed foods like tater tots or pizza or taquitos. These are just a few examples. My personal addiction was chips. I absolutely loved them in every possible way that you could eat them. Corn chips, potato chips, tortilla chips, and so many more. I could go all the way down the chip aisle and put every brand in my shopping cart. French fries were another one. That could be my entire dinner. The problem I had was that I couldn't just stop at a couple handfuls. I would put portions in a bowl or Ziploc bag, and I would end up eating probably 10 servings before I knew what hit me. This story I've heard hundreds of times. In the book Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss, Michael chronicles the stories of food scientists and executives manipulating foods so that they would be directly linked to the addictive centers of your brain. If you feel like you can't stop eating this, don't punish yourself. It is part of your biology and it has been manipulated. Really, your brain has been hijacked. Thankfully, I don't have this addiction anymore, and it took time and being consistent. And as you take courses and develop your education through the site, you too will learn how to overcome this. But remember, it is love and great care of yourself and small incremental changes that bring you optimal health. I share strategies with my clients, and I will be sharing strategies with you all the time about how you can make these changes. So for now, let's move on to the next category of foods. Meat and dairy consumption has also been directly linked to a greater chance of acquiring diabetes. We can see the link in scientific studies with red and processed meats such as hot dogs, bacon, and all types of sandwich meats. However, even chicken and fish pose a risk. The buildup of fat around cells and in the bloodstream keep the key from opening the lock. Some of you may be wondering if you must give up all animal products after hearing this. The answer is not entirely. But honestly, you will have to eliminate a great portion of them. I will talk more about what changes to make in Part 4, so no need to be concerned. I will help you discover the best way to implement changes so that it works for your needs. Next, the importance of eliminating dairy from your diet. Lactose is turned to sugar for fuel in the body, so it raises blood sugar, elevating the risk for diabetes. A special note here, yogurt is often promoted as a health food. Yogurt is especially high in sugar, both as lactose and additional added sugars. It is best to eliminate all dairy from your diet, especially yogurts and sweetened dairy products like ice cream, yogurts, and saturated fat products such as butter and cheese. Two major addictive foods in the dairy world, ice cream and cheese. You may be thinking, oh no, those are two of my favorite foods. Cheese is highly addictive. It lights up the addictive centers, dopamine, in the brain, and it also carries a very high toxic load. Cheese is a concentrated product, and therefore toxins are also concentrated. You will be learning so much about toxins in courses here on the site. Ice cream is the most delicious combination of fats and sugars. This is also very satisfying to the pleasure receptors in your brain. Sugar addiction, we are learning, is found in the same area of the brain as cocaine addiction. It is such a pleasurable food that we even tell ourselves we would rather live a shorter life and be sick rather than give up our favorite foods. This sounds silly when I say it out loud, but many people say it to themselves or think it every day. Therefore, reducing and eliminating dairy, and especially cheese, can make a huge positive impact very quickly to your health and to your insulin imbalance. Moving on to sugar-sweetened beverages. These can be sneaky. Most of us understand that sodas are not good for us and contain loads of sugar. However, flavored waters and sports drinks also contain sugar, as well as juices, especially orange juice and apple juice, which are heavily promoted to children. Have you thought about what is added to your favorite coffee drink? Flavored teas and coffees are notoriously full of sugars. An average blended coffee drink at your favorite coffee house can have as much as 97 grams of sugar, which is the equivalent of an entire liter of soda. Again, there is that sugar addiction this time in liquid form. But what about diet soda? Studies are showing that aspartame and sucralose, the blue and yellow packets, are causing blood sugar spikes and fat storage, very similar to sugar reactions in the body. I will be sharing with you how to steer clear of these products in part 4 of this series. Saturated and trans fats. What are they? Saturated fats are typically solid at room temperature. They include foods such as sausages, hot dogs, bacon, lard, cheese, coconut oil, and all fats within meats. Trans fats are fats that have been chemically altered. They are artificial and are made in a lab. They are found in many shelf-stable items, cakes, cookies, and crackers, many breads, margarine, butter, pizza crust, and pie shells. These fats cause oxidative damage and are a destructive force in the body. When I say oxidative damage, that is blood vessel damage that you learned about in part 2. Blood vessel damage leads to all sorts of problems, from erectile dysfunction to heart attacks to brain damage. The clinical studies have finally proven that trans fats are heavily damaging and should not be in any of our food. Knowing what foods typically contain trans fats, and this includes foods from restaurants, can help you avoid them. I will be showing you typical examples of these foods. Changing your diet will skyrocket your health, and staying away from stealthy trans fats really helps your body heal and work at peak performance. So now that I've showed you the causes and development of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, what kind of changes can you make to improve your life? I have given you so much information. Now it's time to create a plan of action to reverse your situation or help someone else find his or her health. Your nutrition and your outlook on life can reverse your situation. Even people with advanced disease can make improvements. I will help you learn ways to change your life and add energy to your body and begin healing yourself through small, simple steps to make yourself better every day. Join me in part 4 to begin the journey of self-discovery and healing. But remember, before you go, to take on important action steps to make change happen. Number 1. Take the quiz at the end of part 3 to see what amazing new ideas you have about your health. Number 2, check off on your list what foods you are eating regularly that are disease promoting. Most of all, be honest. Remember that your brain is tricky and will downplay the foods you love the most or are addicted to. Number 3, find one item on your list that you identified as a problem food and eliminate it. See if you can go without it for 1 week. Then reevaluate and ask yourself 2 questions. What did I do right? What can I do better? This will help you to understand why you are eating it and what situations promote bad habits. Remember, don't punish yourself. Just be curious. Here, we are just beginning the journey. Number 4, watch part 4 of this series to discover foods and habits to support a healthier you. I look forward to seeing you in part 4, the final part of our series on diabetes.